When me and Noah first came up with the idea for Star Boys, there were a couple things we'd already talked about that we were pretty sure of. You know, we knew we wanted to do something that was lighter in tone, and we wanted to be more collaborative. We wanted to be able to both write scripts and both share a vision for what the project was going to be.
There's essentially a party celebration going on, and Joe and I were off to the side doing this bit and developing it. And then before we left, we were like, oh, we could just do this next summer. I think what felt fully formed about it was more that there were just really good bones to the bit, if that makes sense. Like, we had a very clear status relationship going on, and one character is higher ranking than the other, and the kind of things that can lead to the different kind of characteristics, all of that kind of thing is what it was. We really did a exploration in how status can be presented in comedy.
I think I had been recently kind of fascinated with this idea of like character-based writing. So putting characters in a wacky situation as opposed to a wacky situation being put onto characters, if that makes sense. So when we were narrowing down ideas, I remember we had these kind of parody-ish episodes, kind of like Artifact, but then the staple, one room episode, bottle episode, if you will, with Quigtricity. So we had these ideas going into it. I remember one of the forgotten ideas was we had them, I think, playing chess with death.
Right, there was something along those lines.
Yeah. So it was kind of all over the place, but I think I really liked where we settled on putting these really well, rounded characters into these wacky situations, and where do they go from there? How do they interact with each other?
I think it really paid off to take time during pre-production. We really did not rush ourselves to write, and I think it paid off. I think we allowed ourselves to just think through ideas, let the strongest ideas rise to the top, and I think it shows in the episodes that it's the strongest batch of episodes that we had.
I don't think that content is normally what defines like a good episode of something. I think it's always more about craft. And so I think we just wrote what we felt compelled to write. But when we were cutting episodes down, it became just, what's the craft of what we have already here versus what we have already here. So it would be the craft of this episode is just starting at such a higher place than this one. Let's build that one and take it even higher, as opposed to try and get this one up just because it has content we thought was funny at once. It's kind of that idea of writing is all about killing your darlings and saying, like, I know I like the idea of this, but this isn't serving the story in a way that has any meaning, and kind of pushing it to the side and moving forward. I mean, a personal rule I have for writing is if I'm a page in and I don't know what to say, or I don't have any ideas, I'm not just effortlessly flowing, then I shouldn't write it. I clearly don't care about it. I don't have enough in me to just really relentlessly pursue it. And so I think it just came down to what were we excited to write personally. We were excited to write Artifact because it's funny to throw in that idea of a little bit of Lord of the Rings. So it's a little bit of a parody episode of something like, Quigtricity is the storytelling bottle episode idea. So it was, what ideas conceptually and ideologically are the most exciting to us right now? I think it was very much a what would we want to watch kind of thing. Because there were some darker episodes talked about that I think we all kind of just went, nah.
You had these scripts and you had these characters, but you kind of had a lot of what is this world? What is the kind of greater story around it? So I know we spent a lot of nights just kind of talking about there's robots in this episode. What is their motivation? What's their deal? What's their story? And, so we worked on some stuff that was really helpful, I think, to the writing process of future scripts. What is SOAP, as an organization? And there was this idea that SOAP was kind of this militaristic imperialist power.
Are you asking the questions, John? Or is it imperialistic foreign power asking the questions?
Imperialistic foreign power is asking you these questions.
So you kind of get this idea through the writing of General Motors and others that SOAP is like this organization, but they're not good guys.
I felt like I wanted to just make something where stories could take place anywhere, and the easiest way to do that is space. So you can say, like, you can establish the rules of a new world really frequently. So you can say, oh, on this planet there are these robots, they're Interbots, they do XYZ, or oh, this is a planet there's nothing here, it's just sand. And when you set those up, you can give yourself such a wide array of stories to pursue. I just feel like if you open a world up, you can play with different ideas and that kind of thing. So I just kind of wanted to give myself a breadth of options in that category.
I'm really happy that the series went in the direction that it did, because we really were not trying to tell an overarching story. We knew that we wanted it to be about, our characters kind of learning to work together, in this kind of teamwork theme, but ultimately it's something that we both, me and Noah, wrote our episodes fairly on our own, and we had kind of our own ideas about the stories we wanted to tell, and we each developed kind of our own set of scripts with those ideas in mind. So it ultimately became kind of a surprise to kind of see what the entire series would be like as a whole. We had all these individual ideas. It was just a matter of like, well, which ones are going to rise to the top?
I like the pilot a lot, just because making Dr. Phil into this villain that he truly is hysterical to me.
What I think made me want a pilot was just, I think a good instinct to have in comedy is to over-explain. I think that in comedy it's always good to kind of not, I guess, present your viewer with a lens through which to get the joke, if that makes sense. It's like a really simple example is like in the More Cowbell sketch. They very clearly explain to you, they're asking him to, what's funny about this is he's being asked to play the cowbell more aggressively. That is the joke here. And then you can enjoy it. If you don't get that part of it, it's weird to watch. And so I felt like there's so much going on in this world. We need an episode to say, like, the joke is Fartham doesn't like the robot, or the joke is General Motors acts this way, or the joke is he's an intern and he's an employee. I think the pilot just gives us an opportunity to establish those games that we play throughout the series.
And then I was like, wait a second. Since this is the pilot, maybe we should have them both go through the hero's journey.
Oh my god.
So I'm having to I gotta add a few steps into that hero's journey and shit. Just because there's some certain spots that don't necessarily happen. So I gotta wedge those in there, make it fit that format. But
I think it's important for Artifact to be after this, because Artifact's kind of a role reversal. Mm-hmm. But I could see maybe like Fartham and Quigley Squared as episode 2. Yeah. They're a little weaker in there.
Yeah.
This is episode 3.
No, actually, Fartham and Quigley Squared is great for episode 2 because that is literally about them learning to work as a team.
Exactly, right. Right, in this they care enough.
We get 2 team building episodes.
There's 2 in the title, yeah. Yeah. Right. That's my proposed order. So, pilot, Fartham and Quigley Squared, Far the Wars Artifact, Quicktricity, finale.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
It took a little longer than I'd want it to, but I'm really happy with the finished product.
That's amazing.
And I don't know, look at that, it's clean. I don't know, I know this helps me memorize lines and stuff.
Yeah.
So
right.
I figured that it might be helpful for everybody.
No, that's awesome.
But I think I might have...
Why is only my name on Artifact?
That's what was on the Google Drive.
Ooh.
Cool.
Ooh.
Cool.
We'll talk about it.
While Officer Wanker was leaning over the attendance sheet to call roll, I slipped it right down the back of his trousers.
To me, it is about being in situations or being in a world maybe that is a little out of your control, but sort of making do with that and having fun along the way. And I think that the bond between Fartham and Quigley, because they are it's an internship, you know, and this other guy who maybe doesn't have business being your like supervisor, doesn't have business being your commanding officer, but that mutual respect and I think just like learning from each other, you know. I think it is about like that friendship and also just about that sort of the situations you find yourself in. It is a sci-fi and you know, that's anything possible, but it's also still reminiscent of, you know, the real world. I think it is even the point of science fiction is to really is to talk about our current world as much as this possible one. And I think if you think about it, the sort of situations they're in embody that, you know. There is a strong theme, I think, in each episode.
I kind of go into these things knowing it won't turn out like how I imagine. And that's just kind of part of the enjoyment to me, is seeing the way that it shifts and changes as it's got more and more hands on it. So yeah, I can't say that there was anything where I was like, oh, that didn't come out the way I wanted or the way I expected. Like, I think this is very representative of what it is. I think this is a show that wears not its heart, but its identity on its sleeve. Like, you can very clearly see what the DNA is, what the goals are, what the influence is, all that kind of thing.
And honestly, I think it just feels great to have a product, you know, have a piece of media created and just released. Even if you have your kind of doubts about it, and like, you know, I don't know if this looks good. I don't know if this is what I wanted it to be, but you've got it out and it's there now. And you can say, that is complete. Like, I did that. It is what it is.
I mean, I'll just be completely honest in that when I started writing Star Boys, I was not a fraction of the writer I am now. And right now, I'm not a fraction of the writer I want to be. So as much as I love Star Boys, there are just some things that I watch and I just know I could have constructed the story a little tighter. These jokes could be a little more punched up. It's just, you know, being able to analyze my own writing and knowing the things that I would later correct. But at the same time, I'm really proud of where I was. But, you know, the last Star Wars episode I worked on was the pilot, and that was in May of 2020. And since then, I've written, you know, a couple plays and, you know, a lot of sketch and all these different things, like, you know, I've built upon these skills. And so now I look at it and I kind of go like, oh yeah, I should have said this, or I should have changed that, or that kind of thing. But no, I look at it as like, I can look at this, I can look at myself now, I can see tangible growth in my writing, and that's really all I ever want, you know what I mean? I don't ever want to be getting worse. And this is a great starting point, I think.
I think, like, I want nothing more than to give Star Boys, like, a proper budget and team. Yeah. Because, like, y'all did great for it, but, I mean, it's hard to make, an episode, let alone 5, you know? And I think, like, I'm amazed. I think you did better than most when it came to the thing you made, because, I mean, taking into account everything. The COVID, the limited crew, the sort of, I have a life outside of it. I have to go to school. I have to be with my family and friends. Like, I know you put so much of yourself into it, you and Noah and Jack, and like, I think it has a leg to stand on. And I think people who, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't like valid critiques, but I do know, I think some people may not understand that. Because, and not to sound like entitled, but I think sometimes you don't have that sort of context, or you don't think about what it would have been like to have to make something. You know, you don't have to be, really into film or to like go to school or be on a team or be on a project to know like this stuff kind of takes work. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and to think about that while you're watching and be able to think, you know, like this is good, you know, for what they had, this is like the best they could have done, kind of, I think, like, for the situation. Or, you know, at least it's top tier. and I would just hope, you know, people listen to the message at the end. And I think ultimately, think of this as like, this is a project that had a lot of work gone into it, and is made by people who really enjoyed the thing they worked on. And I think that is really important, and I think that shows through the final, you know, product.
And being able to just look at it online and saying, you know what, we made it. It was really ambitious, and it's not perfect. It's got a lot of janky spots, but like, it got done. We made it. And that's something I'm really proud to be able to say.